his channel from his comment on my Cassandra Cain live stream. So thank you so much, dude. And he did request that I do some more comic book videos. Unfortunately, guys, I apologize. I haven't been doing as many. This channel did start off by doing comic and anime figure or anime reviews. Moved on to a lot of card games recently, as it's what I've been able to, find content with. But anyway, guys, today we are doing the second of our Batgirl live streams. It says we're obviously doing Barbara today. I did say we'd do Steph next, but I have a lot more time on my hands right now. So, obviously we're doing Barbara because I have a lot of Barbara. Barbara is my favorite of the three major Batgirls, obviously Cassie, Steph, and Barbara. Technically she's the original Batgirl, but if you saw in Cassie's live stream, we did mention, of course, about Betty being technically the original Batgirl, being Bat-Girl. Yeah, but they would change the name, get rid of the hyphen, because it looks quite ridiculous. But anyway, guys, thank you so much if you are watching. I do appreciate it. If you would like to see more videos like this, please feel free to leave me some comments below. Unfortunately, guys, I don't have any way to view the comments below with you guys. If you would like to leave some comments and have some discussions later, you guys feel free to. I'm more than happy to have some discussions with you guys, or do a live stream where I have a talk to you about comics or anything you guys want to talk about. Leave me know in the comments below. So anyway, guys, let us get started. So obviously, first thing I want to take a look at is, it's not going to be a comic for our first thing. Our first thing, obviously, it is quite big, so we'll just have to move these two little minifigures out of the way. Is probably one of the grails of my Batgirl collection, for at least Barbara, at least. So I'm just going to slide this in there because it is actually quite expensive. So this is a cell from the new Batman Adventures. So if you guys don't know what the new Batman Adventures are, it is the 4th season of Batman the Animated Series. Around the end of season 3, after the Sub-Zero movie, they rebranded the series with new designs, making everything more colorful, and making it a lot easier to animate, because the show is actually quite expensive to animate because of the styles, and this made it a lot easier. Now, before you go, this cell is from the episode Cold Comfort, and it's a bit hard to see because of the glare, guys, but it is signed by Tara Strong, who did voice Batgirl in the new Batman Adventures. She did not voice her in the 3 episodes she appeared in season 3 of Batman the Animated Series, which was Batgirl Begins. I think, no, that's the Batgirl Begins was the Batman. So her first 3 episodes were oh god, Shadow. I can't remember. Unfortunately, I can't remember. But the last episode being Batgirl Returns, and she does get kidnapped in Sub-Zero, which is a shame. They don't really use her character much, but she does appear quite a lot in the new Batman Adventures, which is very, very nice. Now, of course, I do have the certificate of authenticity for that. This is really cool. Doesn't certify the autographs, unfortunately, but it is from a reputable source, obviously, and did produce the COA. So we can basically assume or presume that they were signed. So it was also signed by Bruce Timm as well. If you guys don't know, he is considered the creator of Batman the Animated Series. Very, very well known in terms of the animated universe for DC. Heavily involved in the universe animated original movies, basically. And what's really cool about this certificate, talks a little bit about the process of cell animation, a bit about Batman, and then finally a little bit about the episode Cold Comfort, which is a Mr. Freeze episode, which is very nice. Now, initially, I did receive this as a birthday and Christmas present a few years back. When we went to look at the place that sold the cells, I did originally want to sell from the episode Old Wounds, was it? It was either Old Wounds or Growing Pains. I can't remember the name of the episode. It's one of those two, which talks about Nightwing leaving Batman, because Dick Grayson, who does actually become Nightwing, in the middle of the gap between Sub-Zero and the start of the new Batman Adventures, and then Tim's already come in and stuff like that, and they explore that throughout the series. And it does have a lot of hints to Barbara and Dick's relationship, which, if you guys have followed the channel before, or you know me personally, you'll know that's my favorite relationship in comics, and it's something that DC loves to mess with, which we're going to see a lot once we start going through the comics themselves, guys. But Unfortunately, they didn't have that. My second choice was something from the I Scratch Your Back or something, but I really wanted something because there's the early episode parts of that episode do have cells with Nightwing and Batgirl on them together. Unfortunately, didn't really have anything, and this one was signed by Tara Strong. So, being that she's one of my favorite voice actresses, I think she's my favorite Western or American voice actress, probably favorite American voice actress. I couldn't pass this one up, guys, and it's very, very cool. Obviously, she's not very big in it, but it is signed by her, so that's really cool, guys. All right, now that's out of the way. We might as well continue on with some artwork. So a few years back in 2014, local artist Colin Wilson, who you guys pretty well-known artist, did actually do some commissions for a convention. I think it was Armageddon. So I did ask if he would do me a Nightwing and Batgirl commission. He said he didn't normally draw superheroes, but he was happy to give it a shot, and he drew me this amazing cool piece of Batgirl and Nightwing together. One of the awesomest pieces of art I've ever had commissioned. Of course, I don't get art as commissioned that much anymore because I can't afford it. Getting art commissioned is very expensive, but this is just a phenomenal piece of artwork, and I love it so much. I haven't had a chance to get it framed, sadly, but hopefully one day, once I get some more money, I'll be able to get this framed, and I'll find some space. Like, I have literally no space to put anything on my wall. Like, I don't have anything on it, but I would love to put this on the wall and definitely get this framed. Thank you so much, dude. I really do appreciate you drew this for me. So guys, that is it for our artwork. Let's we're gonna let's do the books last, I think. So obviously you guys probably saw the two minifigs at the start. So we got this is the first Batgirl minifig to ever be released. There was a micro figure that was released in the Lego Batman board game, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, this is the first one to be released from the Lego Batman movie. Obviously, the hair is a separate piece, so they obviously learnt from the new one. But yeah, I rushed as soon as they announced that they were making a Batgirl minifig, because she didn't actually get a minifig in the Lego Batman line. And there was only one Nightwing fig in the Lego Batman line, which was from the Arkham Asylum set, which is a very, very expensive set. I think it was very rare, even when it was actually, in stock. Obviously, there are a few other Batgirl minifigs from the Lego Batman movie. I think there's like a surfer one now, and there's like a princess one anyway. But this one looks really nice and does have the utility belt. It was a really cool addition they added to the minifigs for the Lego Batman movie, which is really cool. So we might as well keep on with some of the figures. I used to buy a lot of Batgirl figures and Nightwing figures because, of course, obsession, and I had a lot more disposable income. One thing I really want to talk about and show you guys is recently they have been, over the last few years, releasing these Batman the Animated Series action figures. Now, these guys look amazing in box, and they are aimed at older collectors. They do go for quite, I think they are quite high-end pricing. I think they were like, at least for Australian RRP, they're about $40 each. For some ultimate reason, the animated series Barbra, which I didn't even know existed, obviously, so this is the Tara Strong Batgirl, and this is the other voice actress Batgirl. I'm so sorry, I cannot remember your name. Please don't hate me, internet. I didn't even know they made a Batgirl for the animated Batgirl figure for the original animated series. It was actually discounted heavily. I think she was like $18, and then they had a sale as well on top of that. So I got her ridiculously cheap. So I had to get her because she was so cheap. I mean, she was just saying by me, and she looks really nice next to Barbra, next to the new Batman Adventures. Obviously, I prefer this design of her to this one. I don't know why. It's just I don't know. I can't actually say why. It just feels more sleek. I mean, the yellow and black design always seems to stand out more for her character, and I'm more like, because I probably saw this Batgirl before I saw this one when I was younger, so because I watched a lot of Batman Beyond, and she appears like this in Batman Beyond, so it was pretty cool. But it's still nice to have both, and they look really nice next to the Nightwing, to the Dick Grayson fig. So obviously the Robin for her and the Nightwing for her, they look really nice next to those. Again, of course, because I like to buy Batgirl figures, there was the Capullo run of figures as well, based on his artwork. She doesn't look that bad, but I feel like she doesn't have... I haven't opened these. The new Batman Adventures, the Batman animated series ones, do seem to have a lot more articulation than these, and these are from stuff like you probably want to leave and display, similar to this. I mean, I don't particularly really like this. I don't know why I bought this, but again, I like buying Batgirl figures because I love the character. I still do really love the character, just not as much as other characters. But I will say the Capullo figures did look really nice. And yeah, guys, so obviously I do have one Batgirl statue. She's still in the box, unfortunately, because I had to put her away. I ran out of space. She is a really nice. So she is done. This is from the DC CoverGirls line. So she was which is all based on the artwork of Stanley Art Jam Lau. So if you guys haven't checked out his artwork, I highly recommend it. He does his artwork is like, I believe it's digital painting. It's called, and he just makes the characters look so realistic with his painting. He's done a bunch of covers for Batgirl as well as other famous superheroes. He did a bunch of Birds of Prey covers. He did a bunch of covers for Stephanie as well. He's still doing, I think he did a Supergirl cover pretty recently. If you guys haven't seen it, it's pretty cool. But I'm definitely going to make a mention of it when we get to his covers he did for the New 52 Batgirl run. And of course, I'll mention it when we do Steph's run. But really, really cool figure. She's actually quite tall, and I believe she is numbered. These were numbered. Yeah, so this is number 1862 of 5200. So very, very nice. And of course, it's based on her New 52 design. I would get out and show you, but it's a little rusty, a little bit loose on the base, unfortunately. But still really, really nice. So now we've taken a look at all the figures. I figured we should just get in and take a look at the books. Again, guys, if you have any comments or questions you guys want to talk about, please feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I'll try and get back to you. So now we start taking a look at the comics. Now, I also want to talk about, like, why do I have, you might be asking, like, why do I have so much Barbra Gordon merch? Well, Barbra Gordon is one of the characters that I felt most connected to when I was growing up. You know, like, when I was a kid, it was really weird, like, when I was in high school, a lot of the people I knew were either into sports, anime, surprisingly, or, like, games. Not many people were really into comics, which was a bit strange. It seemed weird that comics were less popular than anime at my school. I don't know why. Yeah, but Barbara, obviously, the story, of course, for Nightwing being that when I was a kid, I watched Batman. And, you know, when you're my age, when I was a kid, you either liked Batman, you liked Superman, or you liked Spider-Man. You know, it was one of those three superheroes. Obviously, the kids these days, they're like, a lot of kids like, you know, the Avengers and stuff like that as well, which is perfectly fine. I mean, those characters have been around for a very long time, just they're recently having their limelight. It's nice to see a lot of other characters on the market, so to speak. But yeah, I always felt really connected to Robin, and then when I eventually grew up and started reading, you know, single issue comics, to find out that Robin had actually evolved and grown up into this Nightwing character, who of course also felt really connected to that Robin through the Teen Titans cartoon, not Teen Titans Go, you know, the one we all know and love, which is the original Teen Titans. Yeah, to find out that he becomes his, you know, an older superhero who goes off away from Batman. For me, it felt like I grew up with Robin, and that was the whole idea. I think that was basically the idea of Robin originally, is that kids could go on adventures with Batman, like imagine themselves being Robin, and then this Robin says basically, screw you, Batman, I'm going to be my own man, and goes off on his own, blah blah. Getting sidetracked, I apologize, but this is relevant. But yeah, he would always be drawn and written with his flirtatious relationship with Barbra Gordon, who becomes Batgirl, who basically pulls herself into the team, which is, of course, starts with Detective 359. So yes, this is a legitimate copy of Detective Comics 359, not a reprint. I managed to get this. You see, it does have a bit of a tape pull, unfortunately, which does annoy me, but this book goes for a ton of money now, especially because they announced the movie. But I don't care that it's damaged. All that I care is that I actually own a first appearance of Batgirl. So, I mean, this book is incredibly rare now. It is probably the second oldest comic book I own. The only older one I own is obviously the first appearance of Betty Kane, which you guys saw earlier, which was Batgirl. But this is one of the most expensive books in my collection, and I never, unless I get super desperate for money, I'm never going to sell this. I was so lucky to find it for the price I did when I found it, when I had more funds at my disposal and was able to get this. So I'm not going to take a look at it, open it up for you guys, because again, it's very rare, very, very delicate. It is reprinted in a lot of other Batgirl collections and Detective Comics collections, and it is a really decent read. Her origin story is expanded upon in the miniseries known as Batgirl Year One, which is a phenomenal miniseries, guys, which I definitely recommend you check out, which explores, which is also, one thing to mention, of course, about the 359, it's also the first appearance of Killer Moth. I mean, you guys might not know Killer Moth that well, but he's a Batman villain, and he first appears in the Batgirl book. In Batgirl's first appearance. So, Batgirl Year One is written by Chuck Dixon and Scott Beatty, who actually did work on basically all the Batman Year One stuff he wrote, Robin and Nightwing, of course, Chuck, which is really cool. And this is of course, Robin was a separate miniseries, and Nightwing obviously took place in the Nightwing series, which I've done a review for, actually, Nightwing Year One. If you guys want to check it up on the channel, it is quite a long time ago I did it, so you'd have to scroll down a lot, but it's a fun book. And I was also planning to review this book as well for you guys. If you guys would still like me to review this, please let me know in the comments below. I would really, really appreciate it. So the miniseries focuses on her origin story, where she chooses to dress up as basically cosplay as a female version of Batman for the policeman's ball, as a joke on to basically play a joke on her father. What she soon realizes is the policeman's ball soon gets taken over, or basically hijacked, or attempt to be robbed by Killer Moth. And she's forced to use her karate training. I think it's karate or jiu-jitsu, whatever. I should know this. Whatever martial art she was proficient in to save the ball. And eventually she basically decides to become a superhero and wants to help Batman, blah, blah, blah. And we eventually learn over the time that she is, there's always the rivalry that immediately begins between Robin and Batgirl. And Batman eventually brings her in. And a lot of this is cataloged in the animated stuff, New Batman Adventures, Batman animated series, they basically take the origin perfectly. I'm not sure if it's Killer Moth. It's not Killer Moth. I don't think they use Killer Moth in the episodes where she first appears. I think it's Shadow of the Bat. I could be completely wrong there. Where she first appears for the first 2 episodes of season 3 of Batman animated series. But they do get the part where she goes to the ball and that she plays it for a joke on her father, and then obviously, but they change it a little bit in that, where it's like Batman is ridiculed or something and no one wants to support him, and she wears it to support him. So it's a little different, but the same idea is still there. And it's a really good book. I definitely recommend you guys read it. Obviously, it is along with Robin Year One, which is also really good. It is very hard to find singles. I got them a while ago on eBay. Thank you, but thanks eBay. Both Robin Year One and Batgirl Year One were collected in one trade paperback, which is really handy because I think the Robin Year One trade paperback was out of print as well. But if you guys would like me to take a look and review the whole book in general, like Robin and Batgirl Year One together, please, again, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I'll get around to it. One thing also did in terms of trades for the early Batgirl stuff, because it is quite hard to find, because it's really old, they did do a showcase, which was a black and white, so it actually made it quite affordable, because obviously color trades are very expensive. But 500 black and white pages of early Batgirl stuff. Really, really good buy. If you guys can still get a hand of this, really, really good if you want to read some old Batgirl stuff. It's really nice. It has 359. As you can see there, oh shit. Sorry guys. And it goes all the way up to Detective Comics, Superman Family 171, and basically Detective Comics 424. So obviously she doesn't appear in everything, but there's some really good stories here. A lot of it there's a lot of team-ups with Supergirl as well, which is really cool. Definitely recommend you guys check this out if you want to read some classic Batgirl. And then, of course, they have the Batgirl Greatest Stories Ever Told. So these are some other really good Batgirl story collections. It's got this issue. The first appearance of Duella Dent. So the Joker's daughter. So a lot of the stories in this are it's basically the first time they kiss, basically. Dick and Barbara. This is from Batman Family. A lot of stuff is from Batman Family, which was a series they wrote just for Robin Batgirl team-ups. which is pretty cool. I think I actually have some of these in singles, believe it or not. But yeah, it's got some really nice stories in here. I think it collects 359. Yeah, this collects 359 as well, but this has it in color, so it's essentially Kill 'Em Off there. So this is also another really good collection of trades of stories from like the early Batgirl stuff, even to oh god, what is this from? I'm not sure what this is from, but this is a really cool early story of them like teaming up. I think it's set pretty early. Of course, there's the is that the one where they get trapped with Quasar? No, that's Nightwing Year 1, I believe. No, that's the Nightwing Annual 2. Yeah, but there's some really cool stories in here that I definitely recommend you guys check out if you want to read some cool Batgirl stories. Obviously, this is printed way before New 52, and this is all just Barbara stuff. Cassie and Stephanie don't have that as much of a luxury in terms of greater stories because, you know, they haven't had as much material. But, of course, pretty much very well known, of course, Barbara does get paralyzed in The Killing Joke. And so Batgirl Special basically takes place right before that, where at the end she decides to stop being Batgirl. And then, of course, she gets shot in Killing Joke and becomes Oracle. But many of you guys might wonder, like, when does she actually first become Oracle? Because she just kind of shows up as Oracle. Well, I actually did some digging a few years ago, and I actually managed to find the very first issue where she actually appears as Oracle. So that is actually Suicide Squad number 23. So I don't know what volume of Suicide Squad this is, but yeah, she randomly appears on the radio, voice appears on the radio, calling itself Oracle, and yeah, that's Barbara Gordon, and according to DC Wiki and Wikipedia and all other sources, this is her first appearance as Oracle, so that's something. And then basically Batman Chronicles, which was another weird series, did have a story called Oracle Year 1 as well. So obviously, guys, we're going through a lot of the like random one-offs or little mini-series we have. Of course, Batman Animated Series did get its own comic book series called Batman Adventures, and they released a one-shot called Batgirl Adventures. So this is also another rare book. I don't really know too much about this. It was written by Paul Dini, though. So Paul Dini, if you don't know who Paul Dini is, might I remind you that he is one of the, he's one of the co-creators of Harley Quinn, one of the most popular female comic book characters of all time. He's a very well-known writer from Batman Animated Series, and yeah, he created Harley, and he wrote a lot of Batman stuff, Batman comics. So did Bruce Timm as well, but he wrote this one called Batgirl Adventures. And there was also a series they did called Gotham Girls, which was to tie in with the web series they were doing. It was a 5-issue miniseries, I believe, 5 or 6. I don't own any copies of that because those books are freaking expensive. They're like $100 to $120 per book. So, unfortunately, guys, I cannot show you any copies of Gotham Girls. But if you guys would like to go check out Gotham Girls, I do recommend it. I'm sure it would be great if they're worth that much. Now we're going to talk about, obviously, let's talk about, oh god, this. All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder. So All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder is a very, very infamous Batman comic. So it's written by Frank Miller, who you guys might know as the guy who wrote The Dark Knight Returns. One of the most famous Batman stories of all time. And it's illustrated by Jim Lee, one of the most famous DC and Marvel artists of all time. And he's also worked on, who did he work for? Wildstorm as well. I'm not too familiar with his other work, but yeah, Batman and Robin, All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder. So this is a very infamous series that only lasted for, I think, 9 issues, I believe. It was riddled with problems, and it's very infamous. If you guys have ever heard the term, the goddamn Batman, it actually originates from this series where Bruce Wayne randomly says to Robin, I'm the goddamn Batman. So, yeah. One thing this series has going for it, though, is its artwork, and particularly its design of Barbara Gordon. So this is the first time that I know of, that, or at least that I'd come across, where there was a Batgirl who didn't have a mask covering her whole face, so she didn't have a cowl. And normally, of course, they think they tried to do that in Batman and Robin, the movie Batman and Robin, the infamous Batman and Robin, which kind of worked for that character, but we don't really talk about Batman and Robin. I mean, that movie was a bit of a train wreck. Anyway, ignoring that, her Batgirl's redesign in this. This is one of my favorite designs of Batgirl, probably because it has the black and yellow color scheme, which probably heavily references the new Batman Adventures design of her, which of course we saw both in the figure and on Batgirl Adventures here as well. And she just looks a lot more updated to the times. I mean, she definitely looks like of the time this book was released, which was what? God, how old is this? I have no idea how old this book is, but she definitely looks a lot younger up to times, and yeah, that's actually Black Canary. They really redesigned Black Canary. So my guess is with this series, they tried to make a much more adult version of Batman. Of course, another reason why this series is so infamous is the swearing. And there are copies of books from this series where the swearing was not censored because they had to actually censor everything, I believe, last minute. This is a censored copy, unfortunately, guys, but I actually might take out and have a look. I actually haven't read this for a very long time, but if I can find it, because it's also, of course, infamous because Batgirl herself does swear. But as you can see, like, guys, this is Jim Lee's art, and it's phenomenal. And this splash here, this is one of my favorite Batgirl splashes of all time in the history of comics. I don't know why I like this splash so much, but it just looks amazing. And I'm going to show you some really cool splashes once we get to New 52 as well. I'm trying to show you some of the swearing, actually. But, you know, there's some amazing splashes in this. Because, I mean, Jim Lee's art was really good. Did they swear in this one? Yeah, I mean, you can see right here, it's the goddamn Batman. I mean, stuff like that. Like, you wouldn't really see this in a you know, in a normal you know, in a normal Batman book. I mean, you can see like she's a lot younger here. I don't know, the freckles make her look really cute. And yeah, I mean, this is the time I was about this age reading this, and I mean, oh, that's Jimmy Olsen, jeez. So yeah. That series is very infamous. If you guys, there's a lot of history on it, so definitely recommend you guys go check out the history of All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder. It's a very interesting read as to why the book failed, mostly due to, I think it was like one issue every 2 months, like Jim Lee, I think it was Jim Lee or Frank Miller, or one of them couldn't keep up with the scheduling or the deadlines, and it was like one issue every 2 months. They just couldn't keep up, so unfortunately, that's what happened. There's a prestige format called Batgirl. That's literally just called Batman Batgirl. Yep, not too much to say about that one. There's a Girl Frenzy for Batgirl as well, which is pretty cool. And the Girl Frenzy events, I believe they're all one-shots. We have DC First that I picked up, which documents technically what's supposed to be the first meeting between Batgirl and the Joker, obviously, because it's a very infamous relationship between the two characters. And that's, of course, something they do explore in the New 52. Now we have one more miniseries. So we have a Batman Confidential miniseries, which is also pretty infamous, called The Bat and the Cat. Now, this is very infamous. As you can see, she has a ripped costume. And now this isn't the first time that sorry about the light, guys. Barbara hasn't had a ripped costume, mostly because there was this time back in the 60s, there was this one cover, and it's worth a lot. This book's worth a lot. I can't remember the exact issue number. I'll actually see if it's in the showcase for you guys while I talk about it. So basically, the book stirred a lot of controversy at the time because this, of course, was a female character, and at that time, of course, females don't really show a lot of skin back in like the 60s and stuff. I mean, I don't know too much about the history of the way women dress or anything like that, or standards, but I remember at the time this book came out and she had this tiny little rip on her costume, and it just sent everyone into a stir. I mean, you can't have here we go, this is it right here. I mean, can you imagine, like, this little rip here on her costume right there, like, caused so much of a stir when that came out that that book is actually has a ton of value. It's like, but anyway, guys, this book, of course, is infamous because I believe she ends up getting naked or something. I mean, if you want to see a naked Barbara Gordon, there you go. It's in this book. It's not the best read, but it's a little bit of fun. Having her fight against Catwoman is pretty cool. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. I believe Confidential was a just a series full of those mini-series stories. Now, this is what you're here for, guys, yeah? The New 52. So, this is a very special run for me. The Gail Simone run of the New 52 Batgirl, for me, is up there as being one of my all-time favorite Batgirl, or not just Batgirl stories, Batgirl runs, but comic runs of all time. Now, when I started reading single issues, the New 52 had only launched like 3 or 4 months prior to when I started, so I got very lucky and was able to easily find the first 3 issues of Nightwing and Batgirl, because at the time, what books was it? I was only buying like 4 books a month, I mean, and you guys saw when I started the channel, like when I was doing the pickup videos, I was getting like 20, 30 books a month, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing with my life? I remembered when I was just buying 4 books. I mean, it was the Carnage miniseries, whatever that was at the time. It was the Batman Beyond book, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Venom, which was the Flash Thompson run at the time. And, I mean, just the way that the artwork in this book and the writing was just something I'd never really seen from anything before. I mean, I had my full Nightwing run from Chuck Dixon at the time, the full 90s to 2000s Nightwing run, but this was just something else. And a lot of people bash the New 52 for having a lot of bad storylines, and this book is quite often, you know, overlooked as it was it stood out very well. I mean, it was a Batman book, and it was like much like Nightwing. I believe Nightwing stood out really well as well. This book was, and it did sell quite well, I want to mention, but it managed to stand quite well from Batman, and then when it needed to, streamlined very easily back into the Batman titles, and obviously Gail Simone, being the fantastic writer that she is, was able to execute that. So first up we have Batgirl, the issue 0. Now, I'm starting off with number 0. Now, this because it's kind of meant to be a retelling of her origin story. Now, the one thing that I remember this series in particular getting a lot of criticism for is the fact that, and I love this was Ed Ben's, Ed Ben's art, like they quickly rose to being one of my favorite artists because of his work on Batgirl. And he was drawing Titan? No, that was Brett Booth. I mean, I love Brett Booth's artwork as well. What was Ben's drawing recently? I can't remember. If you guys know the answer to that, please let me know in the comments below. But yeah, the way he drew Batgirl, and this is a much younger Barbara, and I love the way she's drawn in this book. I mean, she's so cute in this book. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I used to have the biggest crush on Barbara Gordon. I still kind of do. She's just so hot. Yeah, it's basically everything leading up to her being paralyzed. Now, this book, like I said, got a lot of criticism given the fact that she randomly stopped being Oracle and became Batgirl again. Now, Oracle was a very popular character, guys. She was obviously paralyzed and sit in a wheelchair, but rather than just sitting there, she decided to help people. So that character was a huge inspiration for disabled people. And Barbara Gordon is easily one of the strongest female characters, like physically, mentally, well, not necessarily physically, but mentally, and not necessarily like with powers, but like with just drive to get things done, of all the characters in the DC universe. And like, compared to one of the main things that originally drew me to Batgirl as well, was the fact that she was so not as over-sexualized as a lot of the other characters. I mean, she looked, like, if you look at her costume, and the way her costume's always been drawn, and you compare it to a lot of other superheroes, she's always completely covered. Except of course for her mouth and the cowl and the hair coming out the back, she didn't need to show a shit ton of skin to be popular or to get people's attention. I mean, she just needed to dress like this, and you knew she meant business, you know? Like, she was always so good for me because, like, I just felt like she was just such a cool character that she would just have to be like, she didn't have to reveal skin to get my attention. I mean, I just found her so interesting, and I loved her suit design. And the New 52 design as well is just one of my favorite Batgirl suits. It's designed, obviously, it's inspired heavily by the new Batman Adventures. And for some reason, for very early on, as you can see here, she went from having, as you can see here, she has a yellow cape here, and a purple cape here. So this is actually, this first issue cover was drawn by Adam Hughes as well. Really, really cool cover. At the beginning of the New 52 run, the inside of her cape was purple, and then by the end it was yellow before they changed it. And we're also, once we get to it, we're going to talk about my thoughts on the redesign. That actually has changed a lot since if you guys remember when they did it, I was doing all this Instagram stuff, being so excited for it, and yeah, I got over it pretty quickly, to be brutally honest, and I just started missing this run. But yeah, for some reason, she randomly went from a purple inside cape to yellow. I can't actually remember too much if that was actually ever given a canon reason for that. So that is the first print, and then I got the third print. This is the first one I got, which is why the third print is signed. I did actually meet Gail Simone, and she was very nice, and was very nice to sign my my number 0, my number 1, and my first trade paperback. So the first artist to ever work on the Simone run was Adrian Seif, and his artwork was again phenomenal. I mean, I don't know why, but the New 52 style of the artwork, or the way they were drawing, or at least just on Nightwing and Batgirl, I just loved the artists and the way they were drawing all the characters. The first villain she fights is a character called Mira. So she fights Mira in the first 4 issues. And pretty crazy guy, and really cool to take him down. Then she fights this guy called Gretel, which is another interesting villain. So again, like, these covers are so cool. I mean, sure, the Cassie covers were cool for their time, but I'm sorry, like, these covers are just incredible. She would oh, sorry, we forgot issue number 3. So one thing, of course, that they wanted to get off the chest really quickly with the New 52 was the Barbara Gordon Dick Grayson relationship. So in the Nightwing series, back when she was Oracle, and we will talk about this when we do the Nightwing live stream, if you guys want me to do the Nightwing live stream, which will probably be in 2 parts as well, because there's a lot of Nightwing books, guys. It was really, they wanted to address whether or not they're together, and they very quickly, and it's always like all over the place, you know, half the time it's Nightwing doesn't want it, half the time Batgirl doesn't want it, but at this particular time, Batgirl didn't want it, and Nightwing did, so it has see them fighting, which is really cool. It's a really cool cover, and this was so early on in New 52 for me as well. Like, I haven't really experienced crossovers too much at that point. Seeing my 2 favorite characters appear in each other's books so early on was really cool for me. And of course, Batman did appear quite early on in her book. Again, this is another fantastic cover. But eventually, of course, she would go off on her own. She'd have less appearances from, like, her other Bat family members, and it would always be her book. You know, you never felt like this was a Batman book. You always felt that this was a Batgirl book, and it was fantastic, you know. And then she would go up against Grotesque, which is this really weird mobster-style character. But yeah, again, so you can see here, she already has the yellow cape. So, like, from issue 7 to issue 8, when she's fighting the same guy, she just goes from having a purple cape to a yellow cape, which is really weird. Then we get to issue 9, and we get to Night of the Owls. So Night of the Owls was the first major Batman event for the New 52. It involved all the Batman titles. Obviously, there was no Damian, didn't have his own book at the time, so he was still there, but he didn't have his own book. So it was a crossover with, what was it? It's like Red Hood, Batgirl, Batman, Catwoman, Nightwing, and there was a few others. I think Birds of Prey may have been in there as well, because it was heavily linked to Batman, to the Batman family. And we get introduced to Styx. So what happened within the Night of the Owls, each crossover, each member of the Batman family would have a Talon sent after them. And each Talon would focus on, each member of the Batman family would have to take out their own Talon. And what's cool about Styx is she actually becomes a recurring character in the New 52 Birds of Prey book, and it adds a nice level of connection and tying between Batgirl in Night of the Owls and Birds of Prey, as she would eventually join the Birds of Prey team, because Black Canary would ask her to as a full-time member, which is really cool. Then we would finally meet a new character. Unfortunately, I can't remember her name, but she would become very crucial as one of the henchmen of the what was of a character designed to be Batgirl's arch nemesis. So one thing I think both Kyle Higgins and Gail Simone realized when they were writing Nightwing and Batgirl is that neither character really had their own like mainstream nemesis. I could be wrong, guys. If I'm wrong, please don't hate me. But you know, at that point, Nightwing had an arch nemesis of really just being Blockbuster. But who was Batgirl's arch nemesis? I mean, Harley, kind of, but not really. I mean, it was always portrayed that way in the animated series. But Harley was off on her own. Harley was in the Suicide Squad. Harley was becoming so big that she couldn't be a villain in Batgirl. She couldn't be Batgirl's arch nemesis anymore. So they actually created this new character called Nightfall, who basically wants to make the world a better place, kind of one of those typical like villain has a motive that they want to make the world better, but they do it by bad means. So yeah, she would become Batgirl's arch nemesis, and Batgirl would fight her as the overall villain throughout Simone's entire run on the book as the overall villain, which is very, very cool. And now, guys, we get to what I was talking about before, the Art Gem covers. So he did 2 covers? I thought he did 3. He did 2 covers for the New 52 Batgirl. This is the first one. So this is Nightfall Ascends. So this is the first time we actually get to see Nightfall. She's a very interesting character. And then this is the second one with Batwoman making a guest appearance. And oh my god, she looks incredibly well drawn there. I love the way that she's drawn there. I just love Stanley Art Gem-Laz artwork, man. I just love it. It's fantastic. I mean, it was one of the main things that drew me to Stephanie's book in the first place. Like, I was like, is this the artwork in the book? Unfortunately, it wasn't. But, I mean, the cover, I mean, it draws you. The cover is what sells the book. So, yeah. It drew me in. Then, of course, we get to Death of the Family around issue 13. So Death of the Family was the second major Batman event, and this one is, you're going to see a lot of Batgirl stuff for Death of the Family because it was the Joker event. So at the beginning of the New 52, the Joker actually loses the skin on his face, so he rips his own skin off. It goes all over the place. I mean, Harley puts it on Deadshot. There's some fucked up shit that goes on with it. But what's phenomenally awesome about the way that Simone or the rest of the creative team on Batgirl actually tackled the Death of the Family event is the connection between Joker and Barbara was so strong, given that he paralyzed her, that, like, this is insane. I mean, the way the story worked is the Joker came back and wanted to, like, basically screw with Batman by messing with every single member of the Batman family. And how does he mess with Barbara? He goes after her mother. I don't know how he finds that Barbara's Batgirl. I don't know. But what's also really cool about this, as you can see, they really did all these cool covers where these actually peel off and you can see their faces, was that this also sees the return of a very minor Batman villain, who's actually one of the villains in one of the probably the best, or one of the most highly regarded Dick Grayson Batman stories, The Black Mirror, which is Barbara Gordon's very own brother, James Gordon Jr. So if you guys aren't familiar with James Gordon Jr., he actually does appear in Batman Begins as Commissioner Gordon's son. And a lot of people don't know that Commissioner Gordon actually has a son, because half the time Barbara is his like adopted daughter, sometimes she's his niece, but in this, I believe it's well known now that he's her dad, like a biological dad. But of course, so this is the second printing cover. I had to get both because, I mean, Benz is now drawing it, and his artwork is just so good. I literally bought a variant cover because he drew it and Batgirl was on it, and the way he drew, I was like, oh, love the way he drew her. So you can see here, yeah, some really screwed up stuff. At one point, he actually puts Barbara in a wedding dress. The joke is crazy, man. He makes her go in a wedding dress. Like, he literally came back just to screw with her. I mean, in the first place, he went to kill Commissioner Gordon, like, and he shot Barbara because she was there, and he didn't care. And then, of course, it's heavily implied in the in the Death of the Family movie, if you guys have seen it, that he raped her. Of course, they never confirmed that, but that was heavily implied. I mean, we don't really want to talk about that. That was a very bad movie for Batgirl. which is a shame because they're going to give her, like, when they announced that they were going to do, like, a whole short just to extend it just for her, I was so excited. And then, you know, getting to see Batgirl, like, on the big screen, you know, that was the first time I'd seen her on the big screen. And, yeah, we don't really talk about that. But these covers are just fantastic. You know, it's the one where it's like her, if she's been Joker gassed, which is something, of course, fun fact about Joker gassing, if you didn't know, it was actually added into Batman the Animated Series as a way to get past the fact that Joker couldn't kill anyone, so he'd gas them. I mean, it's just, you know, it's not as brutal, but it's still pretty dark. But yeah, and it's stuck, and it took into the comics, and that's one way that Joker actually kills people in the comics, and I think that's a really cool thing. You know, the Batman animated series had such a huge influence on, it was so popular, it had such an influence on the Batman comics and mythos. I mean, obviously Harley Quinn is the biggest export we take from Batman the animated series. And you can see here, she's actually fighting her brother. Now, what's cool about this, actually, Simone weirdly didn't write this issue, I don't know why. There was a few issues, 2 issues where she didn't actually write it. And we also had a different, we now have another new artist working on the book. Is he actually doesn't know that Batgirl's his sister, and he's actually trying to kill Batgirl or trade Batgirl or something for his mother. I don't know. It's a lot of going on in this arc, and it's fantastic, guys. Definitely, like, ugh, I can't stop praising this run. I just brings back so many good memories reading this. And then, of course, we get to the Requiem. So, Requiem, guys, is when Damian Wayne thankfully was killed. I'm in the boat that Damian Wayne is a horrible character. Like, he's literally Jason Todd 2.0. You either loved him or you hated him. And, well, in the case of, I mean, everyone loves Red Hood now, or Jason now, because he's the Red Hood. And the Red Hood is such a freaking awesome character. Yeah, Damian dies in Batman R.I.P. number 8 for the New 52. And every issue of Batman that came out the following month, or a Bat Family issue, had a Requiem issue where they would mourn for Damian. And if you guys haven't checked it out, the Batman and Robin Requiem issue has absolutely no words in the whole book, and the entire story is told during artwork, which is something that comics always do, but you always have the words there, especially in superhero comics. You know, it's very rare to not see words in superhero comics, and it's just a phenomenal issue, and I definitely recommend you guys go check that out. It's just fantastic. And of course, this is the Batgirl Requiem. Now we take a little side note, and then we continue on with the story of her to finally finishing off with her brother. And this is pretty cool. And what we see here, though, is the first level, or next level of conflict they create, where Commissioner Gordon actually decides that he actually wants to hunt down Batgirl, because he sees that Batgirl potentially kills her brother. Spoiler alert, guys. But all my stuff is basically spoiler alert. So that begins, eventually sets up the Wanted event, which is very cool, where she, and leads us into the part where she starts to feel guilty, because she feels like she has killed her brother, and obviously, whether or not he's actually dead or not, I'm not going to tell you, you guys got to read it, it's pretty cool. Then we get to the weird part. So, eventually, they did another event, and then they did their first, like, massive event, entire New 52 universe event that had everything in it. This was called Forever Evil. Now, Forever Evil involved the first appearance of the Injustice League in the New 52, which you guys aren't familiar with. They're basically an evil Justice League from another dimension. I believe they're from Earth 3, because Earth 2 we know pretty well. It had its book. I believe the Injustice League is from Earth 3. You guys need to, if I'm not correct there, please let me know. And then what involved is all of them and trying to recruit all the villains of the DC universe to kill all the heroes. Obviously, there's some villains that rebel, including the Rogues, which are really cool Flash villains, and they got their own book called Rogues Rebellion, which again, guys, I recommend that you go check that out as well, because I'm not a huge Flash fan, but I obviously really only like Flash because of Wally West being Dick Grayson's best friend and Wally West being such a cool character. But Rogues Rebellion, oh my god, that miniseries is phenomenal. Like, Forever Evil is not necessarily the most remembered. Not the most fondly remembered series, but definitely, guys, I recommend you check that out. Of course, this also leads to Forever Evil was also very infamous for me because it was when DC was actually planning to kill off Nightwing. I'm obviously going to talk. I'll talk more about that when we get to the Nightwing live stream, because that is very, very fundamental and important for the development of Dick Grayson for the future of DC. So once we get to when we do Nightwing, we'll talk about Forever Evil a bit more. But one thing that I want to talk about, of course, is Gail Simone's new version of the ventriloquist. So unfortunately, we haven't actually seen this ventriloquist back again, probably because this version of the ventriloquist actually creeped people out. I remember like following Gail Simone on Twitter, and she like retweeted something about all these people saying like how weird in the hell, fucked up in the head she was when she created this character. So obviously the ventriloquist, but you probably know of Arnold Wesker and Scarface when you think of the ventriloquist. Obviously that's one of the classic ones. There's been a few actually. They do the Batman. There are villain. They have a few different versions. I'm not sure of them all, but this one. Yeah, so this isn't actually a Batgirl book. So this is her Villains Month cover from Forever Evil, where they took over. They actually took over the characters' books for a while, and so this is actually technically part of the Batgirl book, but it's basically her origin story. So she shows up, and this is a fantastic cover of her actually having like a ventriloquist puppet of Batgirl. This character kills her parents because she thinks the doll told her to. I can't remember if the doll is actually possessed or not, but I mean, unfortunately, I can't remember that. But yeah, guys, so it does have a 2-issue shot, and yeah, this is another fantastic cover. Oh my god, it's just so creepy, like, and she's already taken off her, cut the bat off her symbol. Now, of course, you can see her doing it here. Now, why, you may ask, is the bat being cut from her chest? Obviously, it's story-related, but spoiler alert, she feels after she believes that she's killed her brother, she feels she's not worthy, so she cuts the bat because she feels she's betrayed Batman. It's a fantastic development for the character. So, then we get to Batgirl Wanted. So, Batgirl Wanted was like, they actually do a lot of work. Like, they put Wanted, they made this really cool event. And this is another amazing cover as well of her being wrapped in a crime scene tape. So basically, Commissioner Gordon decides that he actually wants to hunt down Batgirl. So, which is what takes place in this 3-issue arc, which is really good for the character because, I mean, it's her versus her father. I mean, you can't get any more weird conflict than that, right? Then, in between Wanted, they had the 0-year arc because Batman declared they did the 0 year. They decided to retell Batman's origin story again. And this time they decided to make it a year-long event. But of course, the New 52 was weird. Like, there was something like Batman went through like 5 Robins in like 3 years or some weird shit like that. So at this point, it was like how she copes when the Riddler takes over Gotham. 0 year is an interesting storyline. I don't know if I look too fondly on it. I remember it being quite long, but the Riddler being the villain is cool because the Riddler's such a cool villain. So, and then this is another one of my favorite covers where she basically is going to reveal herself to her father. Whether or not that happens or not, you'll have to read to find out. Then another pseudo small crossover they had was Gothtopia. So this was another alternate universe of Batman. I can't remember the name she gives herself. It's not Batgirl. If you guys can remember, please let me know in the comments below. They didn't do too much with it. I believe it was a crossover with like Catwoman, The Dark Knight, and some other stuff. So you'll have to bear with me. So we're pretty much at halfway. And this is actually when they started doing variants for Batgirl and Nightwing. So they didn't do variants from the start. So they started doing themed variants. So this is the Scribblenauts because they did the DC Scribblenauts game. Then she fought a vampire. I don't know why, but she fought the vampire. Okay. And then they did the steampunk variant, which was very, very cool. Then we got to see, here we go, see, we have the return of Styx. Now, if you guys don't remember Styx, I talked about her a bit earlier, but Styx was the Talon that she fights. So, in Night of the Owls, then they, fully fleshed out her character into a full character, which was very, very cool. Then there was a Robot Chicken cover, so I felt like a lot of the Robot Chicken variant covers were not very clever. I mean, this is it's still pretty freaking funny, and it's a really good in-joke for the two characters of Dick Grayson and Barbara. Then there was this weird Nightmare variant thing. So yeah, so it's weird. Then they did the Mad variant covers. So this one isn't really related to Batgirl, it's just Poison Ivy, but a lot of the Mad covers were very cool. Issue 31, they have Ragdoll. Then they have the 66 variant covers, which are obviously referencing the 60s Batman 66 series, which started around that time. Then we have issue 32. This is, again, she was still being hunted. We're getting pretty close to the end of the Simone run. So this is when Nightfall came back, and she was literally like really putting the hunt out, making Batgirl like, she wanted Batgirl dead. She was becoming a huge problem. Obviously, the Bombshells Batgirl, probably one of my least favorite Bombshells redesigns, which is a shame. Then, of course, issue 33, it starts. Batgirl goes to try to recruit as many people as she can to fight Nightfall. Nightfall looks really, really cool there. They had the 75 Years of Batman cover, which is very nice. 34, so, again, still getting towards the end of Simone's run. I believe this is the end of Simone's run. I could be wrong there, guys. Is it? Yes, that is the last issue. 34 is the last issue of Simone's run, and where we get to the change, and then we have the selfie variant cover. Then Simone wrote, Simone's run lasted with 2 annuals. So you have the first annual, which again she signed as well, which is Catwoman, her, and Styx all in battle with each other. Very, very nice. Then we have the second annual where she takes on Poison Ivy. And then, oh yeah, Future's End. So Future's End was the second year. It's really hard to, it's a bit hard to see the two covers there. But Future's End was the second, was I think the second or third year's major event that crossed everything, where they took everything like 10 years into the future. And Barbara's changed a lot, as you can see, and they did these covers. So, fun fact, this was actually Cassie and Stephanie. So this was the first time Cassie and Stephanie had appeared in the New 52, because they were continuously asked for. Because I remember going to a panel that they actually got a bunch of Batman writers to, what was it? It was like Supernova, or I think it was Supernova, and saying that everybody wanted Cassie and Steph back, and then they brought them back. So then she appears in 2 issues of The Movement. So there we have those. Then we get to issue 35. This is the new redesign of Batgirl. So there is they did canonically find a way to get rid of her old costume, which is involved in the story of issue 34, which you guys can go read and check out. This is obviously the Simone run was seen as very dark and very, very, very adult in the way it was written. So they wanted to do a complete redirection. And now, guys, the reason that they changed, one of the main reasons for the change is, I believe it was Simone had a falling out with the Batman editor at the time about what she wanted to do with the character, and obviously the editors have final say. So she left. So they changed, and the Batgirl book was selling really well, and they were like, what were we going to do? So they created an entirely new Batgirl with an entirely new creative team, and when it started, it was really cool. I mean, she was huge. Like this redesign was fantastic. It was everywhere. Everyone loved it. Unfortunately, I got sick of it pretty quickly. I was like I said at the beginning, like when I started this, the Simone run is my favorite, one of my favorite runs of all time. And this was a complete 180 from that. well, 180, is that the term? Yeah, it was like completely different turn from that. So they take her to this place called Burnside, and she becomes a lot more hip. No more like super evil, like dark villains. No more Joker. No more her brother. No more all that stuff. Yeah, it was a lot weirder. I don't know. I don't really look on it really fondly. They did a Secret Files and Origins series, which kind of explains the transition a little more. They did obviously they did a bunch of variants to promote this. This is a really nice variant. So they did some paid variants, and of course they kept doing the continual variants. What was also interesting to me is that they didn't they didn't restart the numbering. So this was the one thing about it I found really strange, that they didn't, redo the numbering. I don't know why. Maybe they were just continuing off the success of the last book, but I honestly think they should have restarted the numbering on this, because it's a completely different series. Like it has absolutely nothing to do with the original series. So yeah, I'm just going to go through this as quickly as possible because we're at an hour already. So it's a really cool cover. They did Lego covers, which was really cool. They did stuff like this. This is one of my favorite variants personally from the run. I don't know why, but it just looks so cool. The design of the costume is really cool, and the way that it was drawn by Babs Tarr was fantastic. And this is a really cool Darwin Cook variant cover. That was another variant theme they did. And then they did a blank variant. They did 75 Years of the Flash, which is a really cool homage to Detective 359, obviously her first appearance. And then it's not Nightwing. I think it's Batman and Robin or something, where it's Flash coming out of the drum instead of Robin. Interesting cover there. The selfie variant, Harley's there for some reason. Like I said, they may have been arch nemesises very early on. The movie variant covers. So some of the movie variant covers are so good. So this is Purple Rain. Hack variant cover. This is where she gets targeted by the new Batman, who's technically her father. I'm not really sure how that works. Then we have Livewire. So Livewire is an interesting character. I believe she's a Superman villain, but there is an episode of The New Batman Adventures, which is highly regarded as one of the best episodes, which is actually a team up between Supergirl and Batgirl, who take on Livewire, Harley, and Ivy, which is cool. Issue 43. So what was also interesting about this is one of the reasons I think that they may have continued the numbering is because when they started off with the New 52, I believe the idea was to do 52 issues and then reboot it again or something, because not all the books survived the 52 issues. Batgirl is one of the very few books that survived the 52 issues. Then we have 45. Now, yay! Nightwing and Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon on the same cover together. But what's different about Dick Grayson? He's Agent Grayson. And who's Agent Grayson? Who's Agent 37? You'll have to wait till my Nightwing stream to find out. Then we have Spoiler. So yeah, Spoiler eventually does show up in the New 52. They introduce her and I believe Cassie as well. I can't remember off the top of my head in Batman Eternal. But you'll have to forgive me. I cannot remember off the top of my head about that. This is another really cool cover. They eventually stopped doing the variants towards the end. I think they ran out of ideas for theme variants. So Black Canary got her own book again. Black Canary got her own book eventually because they ended Birds of Prey, which really annoyed me because Birds of Prey was a fantastic, like the New 52 Birds of Prey one was like fantastic. This is another cool cover. And then 50 was like kind of an homage to the original cover, and Stephanie's there as well with Barbara. And I believe this is called Harper, and that's, I think, her roommate, if I remember right. Then we have 51. And the last issue of the New 52, Batgirl. Obviously, they got rid of the New 52 titling as well. I don't know why. But and then she got her own annual for this, which had Grayson in it. So again, this was another tease at their relationship, which they love to do. And they had an Endgame tie-in. I guess this was a Batman event. I didn't really read it. So guys, that's it for New 52 Batgirl. That was the 52 issues of New 52 Batgirl with the annuals and the specials. Now, obviously, Batgirl does continue on into Rebirth, which is where we find ourselves today. we have I believe it's 19 issues of Rebirth and 1 annual already for Batgirl. I'm going to go through them as quickly as I can because, again, we are at 65 minutes. And if you've stuck around and watched the whole thing, I really appreciate it, guys. You're hearing me ramble about one of my favorite superheroine of all time. So, Rebirth was a... is this the first issue? I believe this is not the first issue. That's really weird. Okay. So Rebirth was a series, was obviously the new relaunch for DC after the Convergence arc. So Convergence was DC's way of taking what worked and what didn't work from the New 52 and what people wanted from the original and smash it all together to make a new series. So they did a Rebirth one-shot, which doesn't seem to be here. Sorry, guys, I cannot show you that. I thought I had it here. I apologize. I surely need to go find that because that's pretty crucial for my Batgirl collection. Okay. Yeah, so what they start off with her is they send her off to Japan, which is pretty cool. And then... believe it's Japan they send her to, and I was getting the one-to-one variants because they started doing one-to-one variants for Nightwing and Batgirl. It became quite expensive to get both because Nightwing was coming out twice a week. Well, and then she this is a really cool issue. She actually gets stuck on the plane with Poison Ivy, and they actually have to work together to save it, which is a pretty weird issue. Then she introduces like one of her first original enemies called the Son of the Penguin, which is obviously he wants to return and take over Penguin's empire because Penguin is still the head of the underground in Gotham. There's a better drawing of him here on the variant cover. And then Magpie comes back. I mean, she's a very obscure Batman villain. And getting to see Penguin, this issue is really cool as well. It's Penguin and Batgirl actually teaming up, which is pretty cool. I think that's it's something you don't see normally. So the Penguin continues here and then finishes in issue 11. Then they have 2 one-shots, Troubled Waters and True Cats and Dogs. Then we get to something that when I read issue 13 of Batgirl and saw the end where it said Nightwing and Batgirl would be in together for their own story. I was ecstatic, and that's where we got Summer of Lies. So if you guys are also keen, I did review Summer of Lies and it is up on my channel here. You guys can go check it out. So Summer of Lies was a story that worked both in the present and the past, talking about heavily focused on Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon's relationship. And you can hear my full thoughts on that in my review of that. But it is without a doubt my favorite Batgirl story from the Rebirth so far because it has my 2 favorite characters in it and it's actually, I mean, very interesting and I enjoyed reading it. And the covers are really cool. I especially love this one. So it was a 4-issue series where they take on an enemy called the Red Queen, who was related to an enemy that they quote-unquote fought in their past. Then they have a one-shot where she takes on Harley, and then Cold Snap Part 1, where she's teaming up with the Penguin, and she has her own annual where she teams up with Supergirl. So that is it, guys. That is my Barbara Gordon collection. Thank you so much for checking out the video. And if you stuck around for the full 70 minutes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, guys. If you guys like my stuff, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know how I'm going, if you like what we're doing. If you want to see more live streams where I go through collections, or you just want to have me to do a live stream where you guys ask me questions and stuff, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. Feel free to check out my comic reviews. There's some really old ones that have a lot of views. Obviously, I did a lot better back then. I think my Bloodhaven review for Nightwing is at 1.1k views, which is insane. It's not the first video I did as well. So if you guys want to, please go check that out. Check out some of my other videos. Feel free to share this with your friends. Share my channel. You know, if you guys like what I'm doing, please subscribe to me and follow me on Instagram, instagram.com/Rafil117, where I post a lot of really cool comic stuff, as well as anime stuff, and a lot of card game stuff as well, which I'm doing a bit of on the channel as well. And anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll try and have my Stephanie live stream up. We'll be doing that next week, hopefully. And we'll do the first part of the Nightwing live stream because it's probably going to be double the length of the Barbra stream. A week later, and we'll do the next part a week after that. So anyway, guys, thank you so much again for watching. And this is Rafael signing out, and I'm going to catch you in my next video.